Okay, these will be the video directions for ACC Part 1, or ACC 1, Part 1, 2, and 3. Again, I'll go ahead and start at our Schoology page. Today I'll start on the 2A home page, and we'll look for the part that we need to work on, which is under the Beginning SOLIDWORKS folder on the home page. When I drop this down, I'm looking for acc1.pdf. Okay, and a reminder, we need to download this so that it opens up, not within Schoology itself, but we need to download it here so that we can open it up in Adobe Acrobat. I'm going to say OK. It's going to open up a new window for me right here in PDF file. I'm going to go and minimize that or maximize my screen, and I'm going to tell it to option-wise to turn or trust this document one time only. Now, by doing that, I can click on any of these views and see an isometric or a three-dimensional piece of this. Okay, the nice thing with this is I can rotate it around, take a look at what we have. Okay, click on the view again, it'll go back into its normal position. I can see what the front view looks like. It looks like I got 3 variables to work with today, an A, a B, and a C. I have the bottom position, identifying where the square cut's going to be, and a top position where we can see where the slot cut will be. Now, as you can see, the directions for today are complete the following parts using SOLIDWORKS, print your mass property sheet for each part, and attach to the final drawing for part 3 only. We're only going to do one drawing. We're going to do 3 mass properties, but only one drawing, and that will be for the last part, part number 3. So before we get started, looking at this drawing here, it looks like to me that the front view would make the most sense to start from. Okay, but before I can start this, I need to know some additional information such as what units I'm using and the material I'll be adding onto this part when I'm done. So we look over here to the right, and I see unit system here says mmgs, which tells us millimeter or grams second. Okay, that indicates we'll be doing a part in metric. Decimal places will be up to 2. We'll not worry about the arbitrary right there, but the material will be manganese bronze. You notice we have 3 part designs. So we're going to have an A, B, and C for part 1, an A, B, and C for part 2, and an A, B, and C for part 3. So we're going to start with part 1 first. We're going to start with this view right here. The way I'm going to start this is on the front plane, and I'm going to put my origin in this corner and use my line tool to create this outline. So kicking into SOLIDWORKS, I will now do a File New. Now, the new SOLIDWORKS document pop-up comes up. I'm going to pick the metric box or the metric part. I'm going to say OK. Now, when this opens, this will be my new drawing space here, but I need to look to the left into my design tree. That's over here to this left-hand side. And what I'm looking for is the front plane, because that's where I want to start this first sketch on. So I'm going to go to my front plane, left-click on it so it turns blue, go up to my Sketch tab, left-click, and then I'm going to go ahead and hit the word Sketch. And now you'll notice the origin in the middle went from blue to red, indicating I am currently in a sketch mode. So I'm going to go to my line tool. And like I said in the previous part, I'm going to go ahead and start at my origin right here in this corner. I'm going to pull out to my right, pull up, in, up, over, but I don't want to go to the same length because I don't want those to lock on. This one's a little shorter. So I'm going to left click, pull straight up, pull back, and then straight down. Hit my F key. So what I've got here is a rough shape. It looks like a C. Okay, I'm going to hit Escape to deactivate my pencil. Now again, if for some reason you get twisted, like it doesn't look correct, remember, spacebar is your safety. Spacebar and normal 2 will return it back to its original front view. Now I'm going to add on some dimensions here. So let's go back and look at this part again. And it looks like I've got 19, 19, 18. Then I got my A, B, and C. So I'm going to start first with the 19s and the 18. So I'm going to turn my Smart Dimension tool, click on this front line, and make this 19. Click on this line up here, left click, in the box, 19, enter. And then I'm going to click from this left side to this right side, and I'll pull out so you can see this. I'm going to type in 18, enter. So I've got those 3 main numbers. So let's go back and look one more time. It looks like I have A on the bottom, B on the top, and C on the left-hand side. So A today is going to be 77, B will be 60, and C is going to be 83. So let's go apply those dimensions. So I'm going to take my smart dimension, click on this bottom line, and make that 77, letter A. Click on this line. This is letter B, 60. Click on this left-hand line. This is letter C, and that was 83. Just to verify I've got this right, I'll look one more time. I have A on the bottom at 77, B at the top at 60, and C to the left at 83. There we go. We are 100% correct now. So now what I want to do is figure out how far I need to extrude this. So let's look at some other views over here. I'll look at this view. I don't see anything to indicate how long this side is right here. So I'll go to this view, and I see 102 would be the extrusion, reminding yourself that your sketch is right here. So what we're going to do is extrude that out at 102. So I'll go back to SOLIDWORKS, go up to my Features toolbar, and hit Extrude Boss Base. Now SOLIDWORKS is going to go to an isometric view. It's going to add a silhouette of thickness, in this case at 10 millimeters. I need to take that 10 millimeters and highlight it and type in 102 and hit enter. Now the silhouette shows you what the shape is going to look like when it's fully extruded. To make it go solid, I hit my green check mark. Now, if you look carefully here, we have a blue block. Now, this is a strong indication that something is missing. Blue is a good indication. In this case, we are missing the material. So if we look over here to our design tree, we're going to see right here where it says material not specified. What I'm going to do is hover on that material not specified and right click. I'm going to go to edit material. Now, the steel is expanded, so I'm going to close that up by hitting the little arrow. And I'm going to go to the copper alloys, because that's where brasses and bronzes are. Drop this down, and I'm looking for a manganese bronze. So if I look in alphabetical order, there is my manganese bronze right there. I will left click, hit apply, and then close. So now my part has color, which means it has property or a mask properties on it. Okay, materials on there. You see right here in the design tree saying manganese bronze. Now, I'm going to go ahead at this point and highlight this top surface and start a new sketch. Okay, so I highlight it. I hit sketch, spacebar, normal to. Now, in this case, what I want to do is go back to my view here, and I'm going to draw this square towards the middle. And then we're going to add these key dimensions on here. So I'm going to go back to SOLIDWORKS here, turn on my corner rectangle, draw a square. Turn on my smart dimension, and now I want to add these key dimensions. So it looks like the square itself, I'll make it a little bit bigger. It's going to be 25 here and then 25 from the front edge. So going back to this, I'll make this 25. And then from the front edge to here will be 25. Okay, so now going back into our PDF file, I look here, I see the front edge of this is 25. And that's going to be 38.5 millimeters from this top edge here. So I'm going to click on this front edge, make that 25. Top edge here, we'll make that 38.5. Now SOLIDWORKS, when I hit this, it's going to automatically round it, so don't freak out when you see this turn to 39. You can change it to 38.5 by left clicking on it, and over here to your left where it says none document, do a 0.1. Now you should see that your squared has turned black, which means it's fully defined as indicated down here in the right hand corner, which means that we now can go ahead and do our features. In this case, I want to cut it. But before I do that, I'm going to spacebar and do an isometric view so you can see that this square is sitting on this face. Now what I want to do is cut this. So I'm going to go to my features toolbar, but I don't want to extrude boss base because that's just going to add more material. I want to cut material away. So what I'm going to do is go over here where it says extruded cut and click on this one. Now you could go ahead and put 19 in the blind and it would work. But since there's nothing underneath this and I want this to go all the way through, I'm going to drop this to a through all to indicate the cut goes all the way through and hit my check mark. So now there is that square in that bottom face. So looking back at my original part, I've got all the C shape done. I've got my square cut out. Now I want to add a slot to this top face. So what I'm going to do is go back to SOLIDWORKS and highlight that top face. I'm going to start a new sketch. Spacebar, normal 2. Now I'm going to use a tool called a slot tool, and it's right below our corner rectangle tool. Right here is, excuse me, a straight slot. Now this is a 3-click process. As soon as I activate this tool, I need to pick 3 points here. So I'm going to start towards the top, left click and pull a vertical line down. Left click number 2, and then I'm going to either pull to my left or my right, and left click number 3. So now you see I have a slot on my top surface. I'm going to go ahead and escape to turn the tool off. Now you'll notice it's blue, which means it's undefined or underdefined. Okay, so we need to actually add some dimensions here. So let's go back and look at our top view of our PDF file and see what the dimensions I need to add. So it looks like I need to add a 45 from the center line here to the back. I need to add a 7.5 radius on this arc. So let's get those first 2 in there. So smart dimension, middle line here to the back, pull down, 45, enter. Hit this arc and pull down, 7.5, and enter. Now again, SOLIDWORKS is going to round this up. If you want to change it, just go to your left where it says None Document here and go to 0.1. Now, we need a couple more dimensions, it looks like. So let's go back and see what 2 I need to add. So it looks like from the center of this arc to the bottom, it's going to be 26. And from the center arc here to the center arc up here will be 50. So going back to SOLIDWORKS, I will go from this point right here to the edge, pull to my right, 26, and from center to center, 50. Now, looking at this, I see that everything's in black, which means it's fully defined. It also is indicated down here where it says fully defined. So that means SOLIDWORKS is ready to do the next step, which is in this case, cut. So I'm going to hit my space bar in my isometric view so you can see where this is at. Now I'm going to go ahead to my features toolbar, and again, we're not going to add material, we want to take it away. So we're going to go to an extruded cut. However, if I were to do a through all right now, we'd have an issue, because what it's going to do is cut all the way through here and the bottom. So what I'm going to do is actually change it to a through, instead of through all, an up to next. And what it will do is it'll go to the next feature it sees, which is this open space, and stop. So up to next, or you could have gone to blind. And if you remember the number, we could have typed in 19, and that would also work. Okay, but I prefer to do the up to next. That way, if that thickness changes, the hole will go the same distance. I will do a check mark, space bar, and an isometric view. Now, the part is done. If we look back at our PDF file and look back at the original piece, we can see we have the slot, we have the C shape, we have the square on the bottom. So part 1 is done. So now what we need to do is do some naming. So what I'm going to do is do a file save as, and I want you to save this as ACC1 underscore part 1 and then underscore your last name. All right, so going back to my SOLIDWORKS, I'm going to do a file save as. I'm going to go to my H drive, find my CAD folder, and under the new folder we call 3D parts, double click inside there and name your part the following: ACC1 shift underscore part 1 underscore your last name, and I'm going to add the period so I can keep this separate. Hit save. Now at this point I'm going to go ahead and go to my features or my evaluate button, and now we're going to find out how much this thing weighs. So we go to evaluate and mass properties. Looking at this, I'm seeing that the first weight today for part 1 will be 2,644.74 grams. So as soon as you have this up and shown, hit your print button down here, verify you're printing to the correct lab, go ahead and hit OK. At this point, go ahead and get out of your chair, go grab your paper, and bring it back to your desk. Now, we're not putting this one onto a drawing. Okay, this is only part 1. We want to put part 3 on the drawing. So in this case, what we want to do is we want to change this part from part 1 to part 2. Now going back to the PDF file, that means we have to change our A, B, and C right here for part number 2. So if you recall, A, B, and C was in our front view sketch. So what we have to do is go in there into our first sketch, and we need to change these 3 numbers from 77, 16, 83 to 86, 72, and 70. So how do I do that? Well, let's go to SOLIDWORKS. Let's go to the very first sketch we have right here. Okay, I'm going to expand this branch so I can see the leaf called Sketch 1. Left click on it, and let's go ahead and edit it right here. Edit Sketch. Do a space bar and a normal to. So now I'm going to change these 3 numbers here. Okay, so I'm going to make them again. I'm going to take a look at my numbers. I see 86, 72, and 70. So I'm going to take this 77, double click, change that to 86, change the 60 to 72. Take one more peek here real quick. 86, 72, and then C is going to be 70. Enter. Now with these changes here, the 19, 18, and 19 all stay the same. Now all I'm going to do is come up to this right-hand corner and hit this little blue arrow, left click, space bar and isometric, and there is your new part. So let's go ahead at this point and save this part as File, Save As. Now just don't hit Save, because if you do, you're going to end up overwriting part number 1. I want to save this in the same folder, under my CAD folder, 3D parts. I'm going to save it as ACC1 underscore part 2 underscore your last name. Hit Save. Go to your Evaluate tab, Mass Properties. In this case, this one is at 2,784.43 grams. As soon as you see that, go ahead and hit Print. Print it to the correct printer. Go ahead and get out of your seat. Go grab that second piece of paper and bring it back to your desk. We'll close out our mass properties. And now the last step is to get part number 3 complete. Okay, so again, we're going to go ahead and change our A, B, and C for part number 3. Okay, so that means we have to go back to our original sketch again, one more time, and change these 3 numbers, A, B, and C, to 83, to 64, and to 76. So going back into our original sketch, back at the design tree, under the branch Sketch 1, left click and edit. Spacebar, normal to. So we're going to change these 3 numbers here. Okay, so let's go back and look at those numbers again. I see 83, I see 64, and I see 76. So I'm going to change this to 83, enter. Change this to 64, enter. And change this to 76, enter. Double check those numbers are correct. And it looks like they are. So at this point, I'm going to come up to the left-hand corner, hit this blue arrow, spacebar isometric, and there is my final view. This is part 3. So I want to again go up to my File, Save As. Do not hit Save, because then you're going to override part 2. So I'm going to do a Save As, ACC1, part 3, underscore your last name, and hit Save. Go to Evaluate, Mass Properties. I see 2,698.92 grams. So I will go ahead and print this final sheet. Hit Print, OK. Go collect that and bring it back to your desk. So at this point, you should have 3 mass properties sitting with you. Now, our final step for this part is to put this part 3 and only part 3 into a drawing. The drawing that we're going to use in this case, I'm going to go ahead and close out this PDF file, come back into my Schoology account, go back to Beginning SOLIDWORKS folder, and find the ACC1 Part 3 PDF file. I'm going to go ahead and download this one also because I like to see it in full screen. Open Adobe Acrobat and say OK. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create this drawing using Part 3. Now this drawing is going to be on a B border. It's also going to be a metric border. So we're looking for a GHSB metric in our File New. Go to SOLIDWORKS, go to File New at the top, right next to the house, and say GHSB metric. Now be careful, we have 2 of them in the folder. One has no border, as you can see in the preview. One has a border. That's the one we want to use. So I'm going to say OK. Hit my F key to center up the paper on my screen, and then look to my left to start manipulating the drawing. The first thing I'm looking for is in my open documents, my ACC1 part 3 _ my last name. If you don't see that there, you can go browse for it by hitting the browse button and finding it within your 3D parts folder. I'm going to close this. Seeing that I have it right here, I'm going to hit my blue arrow for next, and then we're going to go through the setup that we've been doing in the last several drawings. We're going to make 4 clicks here. I'm going to start with a front view right here, the center box. Come down and make sure my preview is turned on. Work my way down to now where it says display style, and right now the default is hidden with lines removed. I want hidden lines visible. Box number 2. Checking down on my scale, it looks like the computer has defaulted it 1:2, but according to our PDF file, our scale here is at 1:1. So let's go back and change the scale here from 1:2, use custom scale, 1:1. Pull out towards your right, and in the left-hand corner, you should now see a silhouette of the part. I am now going to start in the left-hand corner here and click with my left mouse button. Pull up, left click again. Pull over to my right, left click again, and then pull up at a diagonal towards the right-hand corner. Left click again. Now, once you have your 4 views on, hit escape to deactivate the tool. Now I'm going to take this one right here, the isometric view, drag it on my paper, and if you can look at the PDF file again, we need to make this a solid color, and we need to change the scale from 1:2. So I'm going to go over here, back to my drawing, left click inside this, and over to my left, I'm going to hit the blue box shaded with edges. Secondly, I'm going to change the custom scale from 1:1 to 1:2. Kind of move it up a little bit in the corner. Do a few adjustments here by dragging these boxes down. Now in this view here, I don't want to have these extra lines in here. You notice there's 2 center lines. I'm going to highlight those and hit my delete key. Left click and delete. So at this point, what I'm going to do is go ahead and add my note below it, and then we'll finish off by adding in some center marks and some dimensions. So let's see what the note says. It says this is SWX, short for SOLIDWORKS, ACC1 part 3 isometric view, scale 1:2, materials manganese bronze, and then we're going to put the actual mass in there. So going back over to my drawing here, we'll go to our annotation toolbar, note tool, drop that below, kind of blow up in there so you can see it. Font size will be 12, bold, underline, and centered. Caps lock is on. SWX ACC1 part 3 isometric view, enter. Take your bold and underline off. Scale 1:2, enter. Material is manganese bronze. Mass equals. Now in this case, you're going to put your 4 numbers in there. I'm going to keep the X's on here. And then make sure you put the word grams on there for units. Hit your green check mark to indicate you're done with the note, and then just adjust by left clicking and dragging to where you want the note placed. All right, now let's look at our front view here and go back to our drawing here. So I'm going to go ahead now and blow up on this view down here. And I'm going to add the 18, the 19, the 19, the 76 here, and the 64. So I'll go back to my SOLIDWORKS here, to my drawing, turn on my Smart Dimension, start clicking on these lines. There's my 19 there, 19 there, left to right here. I'll pull up to 18. This top line will be 64. And this bottom line here, oops, no, that's not the one I want. From top to bottom here, excuse me, is 76. So looking back to PDF, everything matches, so I know that view is now correct. Moving up to this next view. Okay, I see I have a whole bunch more dimensions on it, but more importantly, I have a center mark in this slot that I have to add on. Okay, so going back into my SolidWorks, let's get that slot taken care of. So I'm going to drag my paper by left-clicking, or excuse me, holding the center mouse button down and dragging. I am then going to go to my annotation toolbar and use my center mark tool. Now, when I click on one of these arcs, it's going to drop it into the middle. And that's because if you look to your left, right now it says slot center marks. It's telling you it's going to be in the center. I would like it to be at the ends of the slot. So I'm going to left click on the second box right here. And then there's a line that connects these two. And that is by clicking this box right here, which is a linear center mark. If you left click there, it will add in that line between. As soon as you see this, check mark. Now let's add in our remaining dimensions. So go back, let's look at a few of these. So I'll go ahead and add my 45, my 83, and the 7.5 in right now. So smart dimension from this center to the back will be 45. From the back here to the back here will be 83, and it looks like I'm going to have to move some things around, which I'll do in a second. Click on my arc, I get a radius 8, but remember that's 7.5. So I need to go to the left where it says none document and change that to a 0.1. Now I'm going to go ahead and pause here for a second. I'm going to take this bottom view here and drag it down a little bit more. Take my top view and drag it up a little bit more. Give me a little bit more space between these so that my dimensions aren't laying on top of each other. All right, now going back to my PDF file. I'm going to go ahead and add the 26, the 50, and the 102 next. Go back to SolidWorks. I'm going to go ahead from the edge of this arc to this bottom line. Pull to my right is 26. From the arc to this upper arc is 50. Then I'm going to click on this line and get my 102. Almost done. Going back to my PDF file, it looks like I need to dimension this line here at 25. And then I need to go from this edge to this edge at 38.5. So let's go back to SolidWorks and add those on. Smart Dimensions on, I'm going to click on this line right here at 25. And then from this edge of the box to this bottom edge here, I pull to my left. But this says 39. It's supposed to be 38.5. So with it still in blue highlight, I'm going to go to my left where it says none document, drop this down to 0.1. Now, last but not least, it looks like I need at the top here to add two 25 dimensions. One for this side of the box, and then one from the front edge of the box to this front edge here. Going back to SolidWorks, I'm now going to go ahead and click on this line here. And then from the front edge to this line here, add my second 25. Hit my F key. Now at this point, it looks like all of my dimensions are on there. In this case, if you look at the right side view, and I'll shrink this down so you can see it, there's no dimensions here. So essentially, we are now done with this drawing except for my title block. So let's go ahead and get that taken care of, and then we'll print, call this part done. Okay, so we're going to do SolidWorks part drawing, ACC part 3. ACC 1 part 3. So I'm going to go over here to SolidWorks. And where's this place title here? I'm going to turn off my Smart Dimension tool and double click. I'm going to call this SolidWorks part drawing space dash space ACC 1 part 3. Now it looks like I need to move this. So I'm going to left click and slide it down a little bit more so it's centered up. The scale today is 1:1. I'll keep that right where it's at, kind of center it up. Drawn by, first initial, last name. I'm also going to drag this to the center. Today's date, 10/31/19. Okay, put in your correct period here. I'm making mine up at 1A. And then check by will be myself. And at this point, this drawing is complete. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do a file save or save as. I'm going to go ahead and keep it in my 3D parts folder, and I'm going to keep the name that shows up right here, which in this case is ACC1 Part 3 underscore my last name. I'm going to hit save, and then at this point I want you to file print. Okay. Then I want you to take your 3 mass property pages, put them together, and I want you to staple them in the upper left-hand corner on the back of this drawing. Fold this drawing in half, place it in the collection box, and now you are completed with this drawing. At this time, you're done. Raise your hand if you have any questions. Otherwise, good luck.